Am I on? Am I on? Am I? I should push this button so that way the people can see me. Oh, there I am. What's up, party people? KeysDAN Show. It's the KeysDAN Show. I need a new theme for the KeysDAN Show. You might hear news. You might learn stuff. You never know what you're going to get on the KeysDAN Show. Whoa, 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 whoa. What's up, party people? KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, The KeysDAN Show. It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time, DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you can have me at your next event. You know, I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Let me entertain you. Are you not entertained? Speaking of entertainment, man, the weddings are coming in left and right. I'm so excited that the weddings are coming back as we break out of this coronavirus quarantine. The people are booking weddings. Actually, I just booked one wedding just a little bit ago. And, hopefully if the phone rings, it'll ring. I will catch it. But, yeah, I've been getting lots of calls, and I'm very excited, very honored to be a part of your big day. Wow, is that corny or what? It's your big day. It's your big day. Do you mind that it's your big day? Do you mind that portion of it? And I'm talking to the brides and the grooms that are out there that might happen to be watching this current incantation of the podcast. And if you're listening on the audio, hey, that's great too. I appreciate it. I like to stream these live on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. For the people that like to get their news right there, right when it's happening. Or, if you want to get it a day late, that's fine too. As it is, it's already afternoon, so part of this news might be done. Might be old news, if you will. Maybe not. Hey, also, if you'd like to listen to the stories of others or tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast called What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Now, on with the show. Today on the program, 10 things you need to know today for Thursday, March 18th, 2021. 10 things you need to know today. Number 1, Atlanta spa shooting suspect charged with murder. Outrage intensified on Wednesday over the shooting spree that left 8 people dead at 3 metro Atlanta Asian spas. 7 of the victims were women, 6 of whom were of Asian descent. 4 were identified Wednesday. Suspect Robert Aaron Long, a white man who was captured Tuesday night after a police chase, and said he was addicted to sex and targeted the women at the spas to eliminate temptation. Long was charged with murder Wednesday, but experts agreed that prosecutors also could charge him with hate crimes. Quote, whatever the motivation was for this guy, we know that the majority of the victims were Asian, end quote. Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms said, quote, we also know that this is an issue that is happening across the country. It is unacceptable, it is hateful, and it has to stop, end quote. This is according to the Atlanta Journal Constitution and the Washington Post. Number 2, Russia recalls ambassador after election meddling allegation. Russia summoned Ambassador Anatoly Antonov from Washington to Moscow for consultations Wednesday, a day after the Biden administration declassified a U.S. intelligence report that for the first time directly accused Russian President Vladimir Putin of ordering efforts to interfere in the 2020 U.S. presidential election. Previously, U.S. intelligence reports said Russia meddled in the 2016 presidential election to help former President Donald Trump and was trying to do so again in 2020, but without tying Putin to the efforts. The Russian Foreign Ministry said in a statement that the U.S. was leading relations between the two countries down a, quote, blind alley, end quote, and that it was seeking ways to fix things. This is according to the Wall Street Journal. Number 3, more charges filed against Proud Boys leaders. FBI agents have filed more charges against the leaders of the far-right Proud Boys group, whose members took an active role in the deadly January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol by supporters of former President Donald Trump, the New York Times reported Wednesday, citing 3 law enforcement officers. In the latest indictment, prosecutors accused Charles Donahue of North Carolina and Zach Reel, the president of the group's Philadelphia chapter, of conspiring to interfere with police at the Capitol and obstruct the certification of President Biden's electoral victory over Trump. 2 other high-ranking Proud Boys, Ethan Nordian of Washington State and Joseph Biggs of Florida, who already faced riot charges, were also implicated in the conspiracy. 13 people now have been identified in court papers as Proud Boys members. This is according to the New York Times. Number 4, judge dismisses 2 jurors in Derek Chauvin trial. The judge in former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin's trial for the death of George Floyd dismissed 2 jurors on Wednesday after questioning them about news that the city had reached a $27 million settlement with Floyd's family. One of the jurors reportedly told Judge Peter Cahill that the settlement would make it difficult for him to be impartial in that case and confirmed, quote, my opinion that I already had, end quote. Another said the, quote, sticker price obviously shocked me and swayed me a little bit, end quote, and suggested that, quote, the city of Minneapolis felt that something was wrong and that they wanted to make it right, end quote. 7 jurors remain seated in the trial. Chauvin, who pressed his knee on Floyd's neck for nearly 9 minutes before he died, faces murder and manslaughter charges. This is according to NBC News. Number 5, IRS to delay tax filing deadline. The Internal Revenue Service plans to delay this year's tax filing deadline about a month from April 15th to the middle of May, Bloomberg reported on Wednesday, citing 2 senior House Democrats. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki has said the plans had not been finalized, but the Washington Post reported the new filing deadline will be May 15th. Last year's tax filing deadline was delayed from April 15th to July 15th due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Lawmakers recently called for the date to be pushed back this year too, writing that, quote, taxpayers will need additional time to fully understand how, end quote, their tax liability might be affected by Congress's recent COVID-19 relief bill. The Post also reported that the IRS was facing, quote, a massive backlog that has left it unable to fully process, end quote, about 24 million tax filings. This is according to Bloomberg and the Washington Post. Number 6, intelligence agencies warn election fraud claims inspiring domestic terrorists. The U.S. intelligence agencies warned that, quote, narratives of fraud, end quote, in the 2020 election and, quote, the emboldening impact, end quote, of the January 6th Capitol attack by supporters of former President Donald Trump will likely trigger violence by domestic terrorists this year, according to an unclassified summary of a joint assessment released Wednesday. The full report by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Department of Justice was prepared in response to a request from President Biden and sent to the White House and Congress. The report says that the, quote, most lethal, end quote, threats from domestic violence terrorists come from, quote, racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, end quote, and, quote, militia, end quote, extremists. The assessment also concluded that lone offenders or small cells were more likely to strike than large organizations. This is according to CNN. Number 7, Texas man arrested with gun, ammo near vice presidential residence. D.C. Metropolitan Police said Wednesday that they arrested a Texas man identified as 31-year-old Paul Murray near the Naval Observatory on weapons charges. The official vice presidential residence is located at the Naval Observatory, although it is undergoing repairs. So Vice President Kamala Harris is staying temporarily at Blair House near the White House. Secret Service agents first detained Murray after receiving an intelligence bulletin from Texas. Investigators recovered a rifle, ammunition, as well as a large capacity ammunition feeding device inside Murray's car, a black Chevy Impala. The arrest came as security in the nation's capital remained high after the deadly January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol by a mob of former President Donald Trump supporters. This is according to NPR and CNBC. Number 8, Fed says economy growing, but it won't hike rates. The Federal Reserve said Wednesday that the economic growth was picking up, but it still did not expect to raise interest rates through 2023. As expected, the central bank's Federal Open Market Committee voted to keep interest rates unchanged near zero at the end of a 2-day policy meeting. Fed policymakers also agreed to continue buying at least $120 billion worth of bonds per month, as the Fed has been doing to help the economy recover from the damage of the coronavirus pandemic. Quote, following a moderation in the pace of recovery, indicators of economic activity and employment have turned up recently, although the sectors most adversely affected by the pandemic remain weak, end quote. The committee said in its post-meeting statement. This is according to CNBC. Number 9, Warnock says GOP voter restrictions revive Jim Crow suppression. Senator Raphael Warnock, who won a January special election to become Georgia's first black senator and tip Senate control to Democrats, said Wednesday in his first floor speech that new voting restrictions Republicans are pushing in several states amounted to an attack against, quote, democracy itself, end quote. Quote, we are witnessing right now a massive and unabashed assault on voting rights and voter access unlike anything we have seen since the Jim Crow era, end quote, Warnock said. Quote, one person, one vote is being threatened right now, end quote. Warnock's speech came as Senate Democrats introduced a sweeping overhaul of election law, the, quote, For the People Act, end quote. The House passed its version last month along party lines. Republicans cast restrictions they support as necessary to prevent voter fraud and boost confidence in elections. This is according to the Associated Press. Number 10, Tanzanian President John Magafuli dies at 61. Tanzania's President John Magafuli died Wednesday at a hospital in Dar es Salaam. He was 61. The country's vice president, Samia Suluhu Hassan, said the cause of death was, quote, heart complications, end quote. Opposition leaders have made unconfirmed claims that Magafuli, who had not been seen in public since February 27th, had been hospitalized in Nairobi for COVID-19, but the government denied it. Magafuli, a chemist and former teacher, was elected in 2015 after serving for a decade as Minister of Public Works. His government started out by cracking down on fraud, but slowly became more authoritarian. And over the past year, he rejected scientific data on the coronavirus pandemic and urged constituents to resort to prayer instead of wearing masks to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. This is according to the Washington Post. That's 10 things you need to know today for Thursday, March 18th, 2021. Now let's go into some history. I like to do a little bonus stuff. That's the 10 things you need to know today. But history, if we don't study history, we are doomed to repeat it. So on this date in history, March 18th, Wells and Fargo start shipping and banking company. On March 18th, 1852, in New York City, Henry Wells and William G. Fargo joined with several other investors to launch their namesake business, today one of the world's largest banks. The discovery of gold in California in 1849 prompted a huge spike in the demand for cross-country shipping. Wells and Fargo decided to take advantage of these great opportunities. In July 1852, their company shipped its first loads of freight from the Far East Coast to mining camps scattered around Northern California. The company contracted with independent stagecoach companies to provide the fastest possible transportation and delivery of gold dust, important documents, and other valuable freight. It also served as a bank, buying gold dust, selling paper bank drafts, and providing loans to help fuel California's growing economy. In 1857, Wells Fargo and Company formed the Overland Mail Company, known as the, quote, Butterfield Line, end quote, which provided regular mail and passenger service along an ever-growing number of routes. In the boom and bust economy of the 1850s, the company earned a reputation as a trustworthy and reliable business, and its logo, the classic stagecoach, became famous. For a premium price, Wells Fargo and Company would send an employee on horseback to deliver or pick up a message or package. Wells Fargo and Company merged with several other Pony Express and Stagecoach lines in 1866 to become the unrivaled leader in transportation in the West. When the Transcontinental Railroad was completed 3 years later, the company began using railroad to transport its freight. By 1910, its shipping network connected 6,000 locations from the urban centers of the East and the farming towns of the Midwest to the ranching and mining centers of Texas and California, and the lumber mills of the Pacific Northwest. After splitting from the freight business in 1905, the banking branch of the company merged with the Nevada National Bank and established new headquarters in San Francisco. During World War I, the U.S. government nationalized the company's shipping routes and combined them with the railroads into American Railway Express, effectively putting an end to Wells Fargo and Company as a transportation and delivery business. The following April, the banking headquarters was destroyed in a major earthquake, but the vaults remained intact, and the bank's business continued to grow. After two later mergers, the Wells Fargo Bank American Trust Company, shortened to the Wells Fargo Bank in 1962, became and has remained one of the biggest banking institutions in the United States. That's on this date in history, March 18th, 1852. Hey, now some good news for March 18th. March 18th, 359 years ago today, the first public transportation service in the world began in Paris, described as, quote, carriages which would always make the same journeys and would always leave at scheduled times, end quote. The carrosses à 5 sous, 5 cent coaches were pulled by four horses, staffed by a driver, valet, at a cost of 5 sol. The service was developed, promoted, and organized by the mathematician and philosopher Blaise Pascal. Hey, I've heard that name before. With 5 routes linking multiple historical quarters of Paris, the new service was met with a positive reception by the general public in 1662. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right. Now, and I always like to check the days of the year as well. There's a days of the year calendar, and there's usually some kooky stuff that happens on this date. Let's see. Today, March 18th is Companies That Care Day. That's pretty cool. Forgive Mom and Dad Day. That's pretty cool. They did their best for the most part, right? Biodiesel Day. I think that's pretty explanatory, trying to get that biodiesel fuel out there. But I think for me, the best thing that's happening on this day, March 18th, on the days of the year calendar, is Awkward Moments Day. I mean, just during the course of this podcast, I've had a few awkward stops, awkward moments while I catch my, while I find my place. Hey, there was an awkward moment just there. Awkward moments happen all the time, and to some folks more than others. For anyone who's ever wished the ground would open up and swallow them, Awkward Moments Day is a celebration of all awkward moments. From walking out of a public toilet with loo roll on a shoe to realizing you've been speaking to someone every day for a year and don't know their name. Life is full of these moments. Although there isn't much information regarding the origins of Awkward Moments Day, many people have commented on how interesting it is that Awkward Moments Day is the day after St. Patrick's Day. Awkward Moments Day can boast a mascot, though, the awkward turtle. So if anything awkward happens on Awkward Moments Day, be sure to see the humor of the situation and have a good laugh about it before moving on to the next one. Well, I'll be moving on. That's it for this edition of the KeysDAN Show. I hope you learned something. Hey, I learned something. I like to fill my head with knowledge. Won't you join me? Won't you like? Won't you subscribe? Won't you take this journey with me if you like the sound of my voice? This has been the KeysDAN Show, an extension of the RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Hey, also, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Well, all right. And also, I've been doing some gaming, too. So if you want to check out the hashtag KeysDAN Gaming, you could find me on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Gaming. Yeah. All right, that's it for me. It's KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace.